I'm Alex Sherman. I'm CNBC's media and sports reporter. Appreciate the opportunity to host this. Nice to be here with our panelists. I guess I will introduce you guys closest to me, in case you don't know him. Sort of our host for the evening, President and CEO of Charter Communications, Chris Winfrey. In the middle here is Kristin Dolan, AMC Network CEO, and Jimmy Pitaro, Chairman of ESPN, who is furthest away from me. A couple quick things. Charter and ESPN are in a quiet period right now, so there are a couple things that I would like to ask about, like how ESPN's D2C efforts are going right now in terms of subs and cable cancellations that unfortunately these guys can't talk about. So just know I'm not doing a complete dereliction of duty by not asking about that. And then the second thing is I apologize to all the cable analysts in the crowd here. These questions will be largely media and entertainment questions, so no fixed wireless or fiber overlay or business services questions for you. But the good news is those things are boring, and this is much more exciting. So let's start here. It was about 2 years ago that really this whole Charter seamless, Spectrum seamless entertainment concept was launched. And it was launched in a dispute between Charter and Disney. Jimmy, let's start with you. What was going through your mind when you had those initial conversations and you were talking with Chris about this general concept? Were you open to it from the beginning? Did he need to sell you on it? And sort of what do you think about it all today?
Well, first off, I give Chris and team a ton of credit. They came in immediately with a very clear plan. He had clarity on his side, and he presented it very clearly to us. Now, full disclosure, this was a unique idea at the time. It was honestly not something that we had been contemplating. We went into that discussion thinking we were walking into a traditional renewal on the distributor side. And so we needed to, once we heard their first presentation, we need to take a step back, regroup internally, and really evaluate this. And what I'm talking about, as you just saw, Rich, by the way, that was fantastic. Really well done. From my perspective, the point that really resonated was how you are really taking friction out of this whole process. And that is nothing but goodness for Disney and for ESPN. So appreciate that. But anyway, we regrouped on our side, and the macro point that we walked away with was customer first. That's how Chris and team were thinking about this. This is what is best for the customer. And so we said, okay, we agree with that. This is what's best for the customer because it is fragmented, and it's hard to find your content. It's hard to discover. And so we then went back, sat down at the table, and it took a while to get there. Obviously, that's been widely reported. But we did get there. And I would say, Alex, and I believe Chris would echo this, it's rare where you walk away from this type of a negotiation and feel like it was a win-win-win. What I mean by that, it was a good deal for us. It's a good deal for Charter. Most importantly, it was a really good deal for the customer. And fast forward to today, and we're thrilled with it. We're thrilled with the partnership. I would say, Chris, the partnership has never been better than it is today.
Do you agree with that, Chris? Or how hard did you need to sell Jimmy? And also, who came up with the concept?
Look, the concept came from the entire team at Spectrum, and so we put it together, and it came out of a point of frustration of just going and doing yet another traditional renewal and go bang your head against the wall. How many years of term, what channels are going to be carried, what price, what not. So, but I think I agree with what Jimmy said in terms of the partnership. I mean, look at the ads that Rich just showed, and there's a lot more where that came from. Those aren't, in some cases that comes out of the deals that we have, but a lot of it is just a kind of a newfound understanding that, hey, the more subscribers we have, or the more subscribers we can avoid losing, frankly, the better it is for the programmers, because nobody does better than inside the video ecosystem that Rich just showed. The consumer wins. It's better economically for the programmers, and it's good for us, not because we're that much in love with video, frankly, but because it actually is a unique way for us to sell our internet and our mobile products. So,
well, let's talk about that point you just said there about not being in love with video, because other distributors have been pretty public about being fairly agnostic to it. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, Brian Roberts says at some point you reach financial indifference about whether or not we should sell this. Broadband has much better margins. So why is video so important to Charter?
Well, Brian was right. And we got to that point. And the conversation we had with Jimmy was like, look, we're not kidding. We either got to find something that brings value to our customers and utility, which we achieved through the Xumo platform, where we are partnered with Comcast, or we should just go focus on being a broadband customer. But what ends up happening is a unique position to be in when you pay that much money to programmers. You don't have a lot of margin left. And video is becoming a liability to your broadband relationship because you're having to take rate increases left and right. You become unencumbered to really think outside of the box and say, I got nothing to lose. So in one hand, we were a little bit dangerous, but because we really didn't have much to lose, and we pay a lot of money into the programming system. On the other hand, it freed us up to rethink exactly from a consumer perspective. Here's what we would be proud to go put on a broadband bill. Now, remember, most of 95%, maybe more now, of our video customers are broadband customers, and because the rate was increasing, we were in essence putting rate increases through to our broadband customers twice a year. Now you'd say, well, that was on video. The customer just looks and says, it's on one bill, it came from U Spectrum. And so it was putting us in an awkward position with our broadband business where bundling had always been of value to broadband and vice versa. Lowers churn, adds more value to the household, save money. And we got to a point where we said, look, if we can't feel like we're providing value, and these direct-to-consumer apps were coming fast and furious, and they were putting exclusive content, less advertising, the full deep library, and they were cheaper at retail than often they would be done at wholesale. And we said, wait a second, if that's where we're going, why don't we just sell the apps to our customers, unbundled or bundled, and maybe that's a better outcome for the customer. And that's not where we landed, thankfully, because we came into an environment, said the channel guide still has value for a lot of customers, the ability to find the content there, to have the direct-to-consumer app available in the way that Rich described. That was kind of the holy grail, and it was still better for the programmers than going it alone or being in the environment that we were in. And so we thought that was a way that, even though it's expensive, the video product we sell, because of how much content is in there, you can save a lot of money, but it's not cheap. It's $100, at pricing that we have for that package. So it's a lot of money. It may not be for everybody, but if you pay it, you're going to get every bit of the value because there's over $100 now going to $125 of app value that's included as part of your package. As Rich said, we're looking at audiences, think about audiences under $35 and say, here's the package of apps. And by the way, your live linear video is included as well. It's the exact same product. It's just pitching it a different way. And for the consumer, it brings value and it brings utility through Xumo. And so we're proud of the product that Rich just showed to put it on the bill. And I think it's worth the effort.
Kristin, you come at this from having worked both at the distributor level and now, of course, the AMC level. When you are looking at
this, we
this,
put you in the middle on.
That's right. That's why. Right. Right. It's like an evolution here. Right. When you see this Charter Disney, dispute and then deal, do you remember sort of what your initial thought was? Or are you thinking, oh, this is going to be the new standard? And then how are you feeling about that?
We were thinking, hell yeah, because we're in a different situation, right? We're an entertainment group of networks, linear networks. We have 5 linear networks, 7 streaming products. And you can look at the stats, right? Entertainment just between 24 and 25 is down 24%. Viewership, and we're, a lot of that's a blended average across all entertainment networks. So for us, we have streaming services, but they're less expensive, they're lower priced. And my goal as a smaller player in the entertainment space is to get the product everywhere, right? Get our stuff out as quickly and as efficiently as we can. And thankfully, we have a great studio, we have great content, but we're not going to be able to spend what Disney and others can spend to sell our apps, right? So we'll probably be, on a great day, we'll probably be the 5th or 6th choice that somebody will make for a streaming service. We love our linear customers, and the linear channel is great, but that ship has kind of sailed, as you were just talking about. So for us, we were able to do a great partnership arrangement with Charter where people get AMC Plus, the ad-supported version, as part of the Spectrum package, and then our linear channels are still carried. But what we also did, me being an operator, to your point, is it was really important for us to make sure that it was a seamless customer experience. So we worked really hard to work on authentication with Charter so that an AMC customer could easily authenticate for their free included AMC Plus within the product. And then ultimately, as Rich showed, people can upgrade if they want to the premium version of the service. And Charter, very nicely, as a partner, if somebody upgrades to the AMC Plus premium service with Spectrum, the $3 that they pay incremental is actually rebated by Charter. So we're getting people in. We've had, over 850,000 activations on Charter for the AMC Plus app. So for us, if we had to grow that way ourselves as a direct-to-consumer product, we would never have the success that we've had with Charter.
I think I've heard Jimmy say 15 times that he's agnostic as to whether someone is a cable subscriber or buys ESPN direct-to-consumer. Given the fact that you come at this in a little different way, and maybe churn is a bigger concern, are you similarly agnostic, or would you prefer someone stay in the cable bundle and get AMC that way?
So we're all about meeting the customers where they are, no matter what, whether it's on broadband, D2C, connected TV, through Amazon Prime, whatever. So for us, it's really about making ourselves available everywhere.
Jimmy, when you were thinking about sort of whether or not to do this with Charter, I would imagine one of the things you must have thought about was, all right, well, if we include all these apps within the standard bundle, there's going to be at least a portion of our customers who are currently cable customers and ESPN Plus customers who are paying twice. And we are going to lose that revenue if we do this deal. Walk me through the math behind why you thought that this was the best way forward for ESPN.
So look, when we decided to go direct to consumer several years ago, meaning beyond ESPN Plus, all in on direct to consumer, at that exact time, we also decided internally that we were going to remain committed to the pay TV environment. And the best way to demonstrate that commitment was by adding value once we launched. And so fast forward to August 21st of this year, we launched, and we made all of the product enhancements within the ESPN app available to Charter subscribers. So fire up the ESPN app, you authenticate in, and you have access to deeper personalization, all of the interactive features that we now have within the app, like bet, fantasy, stats integration, commerce integration. All of that is available to the Charter subscriber. And so that's our way of adding more value to that environment. And so, yes, look, I have said that we are agnostic. Really what I'm saying, Alex, is we are not at all interested in incentivizing cord cutting. What we are doing is we are going after the people that have not subscribed, have either cut the cord and are not coming back, or have not subscribed at all. And if you look at our marketing and how we're marketing it, it's pretty apparent.
Can I add to that? Just one of the things that's interesting when you do these models is when I got to AMC Networks, having been a cable operator, I got in and we had our own customer service, we had our own back end, we were doing all this stuff, and it's like it's not necessarily scalable. So the fully loaded cost for a small company like us of being a D2C provider, you have to bake in. Back when I was in cable, it was $15 a phone call into customer service, right? So you don't have those expenses. As I said, you don't have the marketing expenses.
Acquisition cost.
Yes, acquisition, retention, all the added value that we get in the advertising that they're giving us. So $6.99, it's not really $6.99 versus the wholesale rate. It's really what the fully loaded cost to serve the subscriber is. And they pick up a lot of that through the partnership because they're in the business anyway. So it's a $6.99. It's not $6.99 versus a wholesale rate. It's when you actually have the fully loaded cost of delivering a streaming product. It doesn't get to $39. Sorry, but it gets you a little bit closer. So
yeah, and look, I would also say, I've always been a believer in the MVPD or pay TV ecosystem from a value perspective. I still think there's real value there, and what Chris and team have done now by enhancing the product and including the apps the streaming environment, I think it's a great experience. It's a great experience for the customer.
The product works too, I will say, as a customer. It really does work, and activation's easy. And the value is good.
You guys and your background helped on that. Kristin was in right from the get-go, like immediately said, how do we get in? Please let us in. And it was, we want to go, we want to support, how do we get behind? And look, it's like I said, desperation drives, great things. And it did for us as well. But she also understood the importance of making it easy for the customer, and she understands authentication and how to drive in, and that you got to make it seamless. And her ask to me was, why don't you let, together with Rich, can you let us go first? Because then we can show other programmers the way and why it matters so much to make this easy for the customers. And we did. So
it does help that our CTO was the former Charter CTO, so she and Rich worked together, and she knew the system. But.
I mean, you say desperation drives great things, but all of the distributors are in the same boat, and we have not seen this model necessarily take off with everyone. So why do you think that hasn't happened?
I think there's different incentives that are out there. I mean, you take a look at some of the video providers out there today. Many of them don't even have a profit incentive. So, when you're selling the product at a loss, I'm not sure that's really great from a programmer perspective. But the relationship that exists from go all the way back for cable and programmers, we were always the quote-unquote cable company today was really a connectivity company. We were bringing broadcast over-the-air content, free over-the-air content to customers as a connectivity service and charging a rate for the connectivity. And these cable channels were really birthed out of the cable systems to provide additional channels, in competition really to the broadcast. And so today, when you think about us, we have a distribution platform that's much larger than our video subscribers because of the broadband connectivity service that we provide. And that provides a couple things. One is an ability to think about the video business a little differently, but also, we have 30 million broadband customers, a majority of which don't have video anymore, and that gives us an opportunity to go sell a la carte. So we're now, Rich touched on it a little bit here, but I want to be clear. To the much broader base of broadband customers, we will be selling AMC Plus, ESPN, Paramount Plus, HBO Max. Almost got tripped up on that one.
Yeah. Don't worry, in a year it'll be something else.
But the idea there is whatever the customer wants to have, we can provide it in that video app store. And maybe, ideally, one day they say, look, it's adding up to a lot of money, and for $100, I could get linear video included as part of that, and then we have that relationship as well. And so I think we have a unique relationship with the programmers because of the history. We got away from that where we weren't cooperating. It was very transactional for a long time. But we have a profit interest in their product. We have a huge distribution platform in our broadband, and we have 25,000 salespeople that exist every day to go sell cable.
Let me ask you guys that. Do you feel like there has been a shift in the general relationship between you guys and distributors in recent years where there's more of a we're all in this together attitude?
I mean, I think we've always been that way because we were owned, AMC Networks was owned by Cablevision before we spun, so we're sort of bred out of the operating model. So and everybody have been around for a long time. We've all known each other for a long time. So it's never really been contentious, but sports is different. I mean, sports is a must-have for the operator, and the distribution mechanism was a must-have for the network. So you may be a little bit different.
I echo what I said before, Alex. The answer to your question as it pertains to Disney and Charters, unequivocally, yes. This is the best the relationship has ever been, and I give Chris and team a ton of credit on that. It was a tough negotiation because it was new, and again, it's not how we went into this. But that which does not break you makes you stronger, and we got it done, and we just got a renewal done,
which is unprecedented.
Yes,
out of cycle.
I would echo that.
And we added in Hulu. Now our customers get that included. And then we put back the 8 linear channels as well, all off cycle. When is the last time that's happened? I think I agree.
And now you have YouTube TV coming up, so that'll be nice and easy too, I assume, right? Yeah. That may be one of those quiet period things you can't answer. Yeah. Let's talk about the industry a little bit more. Like take a big picture here. I think it was 5 years ago I wrote a story saying that industry executives were preparing for a world of 50 million U.S. household pay TV subscribers, whether that's virtual MVPD or traditional. I think we're at, something like 65 million now, give or take. Do you guys feel like there is a floor for traditional cable subscribers, and what is it? Or do you feel like we will simply evolve into a new bundle which will be dominated by the streaming apps, and that will basically take over as cable TV? Any of you?
Let you guys go first.
I'll start. I don't have a crystal ball, Alex. I don't know if there's a floor or not. Our focus is on adding as much value to the pay TV environment as we possibly can. And so I already mentioned this, but through our app, we're providing that value. We've spent years developing this app. By the way, we're still in the first inning here. I've said that repeatedly in terms of product enhancements, and couldn't be more pleased with what we just saw on the Charter side in terms of product enhancements. In terms of our app, we feel like we're just getting started, and we do believe that we are adding value to that ecosystem, which will hopefully help as we move forward here.
So I would say right now what we see is there's two different customers. A streaming only or broadband only customer that takes streaming products is one type of customer, and then somebody that still watches traditional linear. For the most part, the Venn diagram is not as big as you would think.
And is that old young demo?
Yeah, kind of. And I think if you look at services like Philo or some of the less expensive virtual MVPDs, it's cost-driven more than anything else. But the other piece is that all of the content ultimately is digital, and it's all distributed through the same plant, right? So it's ultimately about like what's the front end that people are paying for, but it becomes almost, the content delivery is almost agnostic as you kind of play forward all the stuff that Rich showed. Like ultimately it doesn't really matter, like a fast channel versus a linear channel versus a stream that's on demand. It's all unicast, whereas it used to be broadcast. So I think it's just figuring out the economics for the customers at the end, and which is why we believe so much in this strategy, is like if you're giving people value in a way that works well and actually have people that will answer the phone when you have a problem, which is a big deal, and all the brands are represented and there's ease of use, like that's just a win. So I think ultimately the other operators will follow suit because Charter's clearly having success already. And I think they're the ones now that have desperation that will drive different decisions.
I want to kind of double down on something that Rich addressed, and Chris and I have talked about this, which is awareness. Like the offering that Charter has is fantastic. I think together we need to be doing more in terms of making sure the customer is aware. And again, third time, you're on it. That was impressive. But we also take responsibility for that, meaning, hey, you're a Charter subscriber. You have access to all of ESPN now. Go in, authenticate. And so you're going to start to see more of that.
Our number one issue that we have right now with everything that Rich presented, and granted, we hadn't really started marketing it until we felt like we had the user experience right, and it's going to continue to get better. But our number one issue is, and this may shock you, but customers don't trust the cable company. And, maybe with good reason. For how many decades did, the cable industry go out and say HBO is included for free, and it was for 3 months, and then, $10 would show up on your bill. And so, we've conditioned people to think that it's a free trial period. What we're trying to communicate is not a free trial period. It's included as part of your service. And all you have to do is get in here and activate it, and we're going to make it really easy. It is hard to be the cable company who we come into your house with booties to make a repair, and we send you a bill every month. But, I joked around with Jimmy and Dana at Disney and said, look, if Moana said that, people would believe it. And it's included, it's included as part of your cert. Now
she'd be hated.
We haven't gotten
that Moana.
Maybe, but we haven't gotten Moana yet. But we're, take a look at everything that's coming about. I mean, it's Greenie on ESPN. It's the characters from The Walking Dead on AMC Plus. There's a boatload of Paramount Plus has gotten behind this. Certainly, I should give a shout out to Zaslav, who's out of the country. He came. Not only did he say, I'm going to see you one, but I'm going to double down. And said, why don't we give you HBO Max included as part of your TV Select, outside of a premium package to give you HBO Max. That was his idea. It probably drove his team nuts. In fact, I know it did. But it was the right thing to do, is say, lean into the industry and go do this, and let's go be partners again and do that. And back to your other question, So we need that help from the programmers. We don't have the IP. We don't have the talent, and I hate to admit it, I hope we have it back, but we haven't regained the credibility to be able to go do that, and so we need the programming partners' help on that front. You asked, where does the number go over time?
Because Charter has evidence, like your video sub losses have.
Yeah, but everybody in this audience, if I ever said anything about a video prediction, they would kill me. So I'm not going to go do that. And we're not in it for number of PSU growth. We're in it for those that it matters to create value by delivering it. And so when you think about this full expanded package, $100 plus, that includes all this, it's great value. But we're also selling, mostly in retention, is to have a skinny bundle. And then in addition to that, have the a la carte, direct-to-consumer apps available as well. And you get enough of that, and then you move back onto the other curve, or depending on where your wallet is or where you are in age, we're going to meet the customer, kind of what Kristin said, wherever the customer wants to go, we want to be able to service them. But it has to create value. It has to have utility. And we've got to be proud to put it on the bill. And for us, it's really about putting it on the bill to sell more broadband and mobile. And we're trying to use unique advantages that we have mobile everywhere we have wireline and vice versa, and we have video everywhere we have broadband and mobile. And so using video and using mobile to sell more broadband, one way or another, it's not a lot of margin, but it really is about creating value.
Let me push you a little further on that, which is that this concept, this idea, is a great way to fight against the customer who wants to subscribe to a bunch of streaming services and would have alternatively canceled cable. What it doesn't do is fight against the customer who gets all of their entertainment from Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Is there a solution to that, or are you content to say that's fine? You just use our broadband service.
No, I think you're talking about the next evolution of where do we go. And part of that was where you said about could you end up with a full package of, is the package that we're selling today, does that ultimately migrate into really just a bundle of direct-to-consumer apps? And the answer is maybe. But then in addition to that, the alternative forms, we've taken a look and said, should we, Rich showed it, in terms of Netflix doing more there. All those things are on the table, social, including that. In some sense, it's a bigger issue
I would
the content providers than even us. Because
sure,
at least we benefit from the broadband.
Because I think the idea of integrating user-generated content and extra content within the apps and really activating further the capabilities that we would have as app providers is on us. So if you're talking about social and all these other elements, it's just again a matter of integrating them into what we're offering, and then by definition, they'll be available through the video subscription or the broadband subscription, right? So that's a big thing that we think about. I'm sure you do with betting and red zone type of stuff about what who's winning what game and all the other things. So if you can augment the apps, they
don't have to say
become
he
stickier.
Red Zone.
I know,
I
but
think it's
he was talking about baseball before, so I only know basketball and hockey. Sorry.
Well,
I should have started this by apologizing for the Yankees up front.
thank you for waiting this long. So back to social, though. I think, yes, I think that's more on us than it is on Charter. And look, it wasn't too long ago, Alex, where ESPN was the number one brand in the world on TikTok. Now we're the number one media brand in the world on TikTok, but we've made significant investments in third-party social platforms. And so what am I getting at? It's rising tide, right? You look at our research, it's the more we invest in social, the better our brand resonates, especially with the younger people, and the more time that they're spending with our owned and operated properties, which is ultimately helpful to Chris and team.
And advertising for us in their social feed, which has a better hashtag than ours.
Yeah. Rich spent a little bit of time going over the user experience. I want to talk about that a little bit. Maybe this is generational, but I'm still old enough that I miss flipping channels in this new world, and I find that I wonder, have we evolved to something that is worse than the prior experience? Yes.
Well, you can still flip channels
with Spectrum TV app.
Yeah, there's still a channel guide. Now you also
You're not leaving
have the
here
apps.
without being sold on Spectrum TV.
Well, look, the universal search is fantastic. The fact that you can search across pay TR, linear television, and the apps is fantastic. The voice remote, I'm assuming it works, which will be fantastic.
It does.
But I haven't.
Was a clicker.
Yeah, I got it.
You have
I
to
got it.
enunciate. That's all about it.
But I feel like they're addressing those problems. Like what you just saw addresses a lot of the problems that exist today and the frustrations that customers have.
So let me push you on that a little bit. Why, like the voice-controlled remote has been around now for years. Like a shout out to my parent company for 3 more months. Like Comcast has had that for a long time. Why is that not industry standard?
It's becoming, and candidly, that remote that exists on Xumo comes about because of Comcast, your parent company's technology. So it's a 50-50 joint venture between Comcast and Charter, operating as Spectrum, and really took the best of what you had in Sky, in the user interface out of there, the technology platform that Comcast had developed together with the voice remote. That voice remote works really, really well. It's fantastic. And I can say that because we didn't develop it, we just bought into it. But it's a great remote. I'm sure it'll continue to get better, but I think it's the best out there.
Can I add one other thing? If you are a Spectrum customer and you start using the app, you become very used to it. So like we have Spectrum in the city, and then I have Verizon at home. But when I'm home, I open up the Spectrum app on my Verizon platform so I can watch, believe it or not, my DVR. But then all of my activations that I have with Spectrum, I can use anywhere I am in the country on any broadband platform. So I think the more people activate now with what they're offering, the retention, and that was Chris's point, over the years, you just get used to it. So even if you move or whatever, you're going to keep Spectrum, especially if you're getting into a quad play where you're using them for everything anyway. But I think the usage and the convenience of it becomes a habit, and it's cost efficient enough that you're not going to keep switching and spinning to different offerings. That's the goal, I would think.
I think the answer has to be the search has to work. And I think if the search really, truly works, then the customer is going to be more than satisfied here. So Rich just showed, the Knicks, and it's us, and Peacock, and Amazon, and local in-market.
SG networks.
And so, okay, so that's a combination of linear and apps. Okay, if the search works and you're within that device, it will be seamless. That's my expectation from what I just saw. So I get it on the changing of the channels. I definitely get it. I'm older than you are. But again, if the search is powerful and compelling, I think it's going to be great.
Rich mentioned TV everywhere in his thing and kind of chuckled, and maybe others in the audience chuckled too. But it got me thinking, like, we're all sort of dancing around this concept, which was that, 15 years ago, there are 100 million U.S. households that were cable TV subscribers, and today there's 65 million. I want the three of you to answer this. Was there a mistake along the way? Like, was this, and what was it?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Not servicing the customer, not putting the customer first.
Yeah. I think in just thinking about the customer, I think, and this isn't a stab at any particular group, but the idea that you could sell content into a space that was unprotected from an authentication standpoint, with no advertising, with no brand, and think that was going to be incremental subscribers, was a big mistake. And once that happened, and you started to create entities that for long periods of time could sell your content at a discounted rate and have a loss for a prolonged period of time, Cap was out of the bag. Then people started to naturally chase the direct-to-consumer, reclaim back the content. It was too late. And you ended up with an environment where capital markets have some responsibility here too. We're rewarding people for subscribers and negative profitability, and for a long time until they didn't. And now we looked pretty good again because we can put it back together in a way that I think is good for the consumer, actually does the best that we possibly can from the programmer's profitability as well, and gets us the value and utility that we're looking for. Is it too late? I think is the real question.
Right.
I don't know, but already you can see attempts again to try to disintermediate the content providers from their content. Topics or words like ingestion, which frankly up until a few weeks ago, I'm not even sure I knew what that meant.
Not sure, yeah.
But it doesn't sound good if you're a programmer and as somebody who pays for that content and values that content and has to sell it at a margin. I look at that and say, is this a second coming of a similar type of issue all over again? So,
was that the mistake? Is that what you were going to say, Kristin?
I would just say, as a former operator, like we just got very used to, our only competition was DirecTV for many, many years. The government sort of managed, unless there was effective competition. You we were able to raise the rates that we did. And to Chris's point, we were chasing subscribers, and we thankfully were able to add broadband and Wi-Fi and other products. So your RPS was still going up, but we neglected, I think, service and other things that made people hate us. And, you can't have if the customer has another alternative and there's a company that they hate, that is their primary, like odds are they're going to go someplace else.
Isn't this your fault, Jimmy? You raise the rates 20% every year,
Look, we have a pretty robust rights portfolio. That's what I would say to that.
Well, look, we're seeing all these distributors, they'll go to the skinny bundle now. That seems like maybe it was too late and that there should have been more pressure on smaller, cheaper bundles earlier?
Maybe, but the skinny bundles, where it has value and utility in the household, I think it should be a limited audience because most households have multiple people inside. In the household that says, I take a look at, what was it called, Spulu? And,
yeah, Spulu.
Spulu.
Right.
Forever for me, it'll always be
Venue.
Spulu.
Yes.
Venue.
Yeah.
Spulu.
R.I.P.
The idea that you're going to have a sports-only household who doesn't have, a spouse or a kid or whatnot that needs some general entertainment, to me that seemed like a really small audience. Similarly, a package that has no sports whatsoever and never is going to have anything, that strikes me as a minority too. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but the way that we're selling our products allows us to meet the customer wherever they are. So I feel, I wouldn't say agnostic, but I'm not sure that's as much value as having all the content that everybody in the household really wants. And that's still, I think, the value of what we provide.
So a question for all three of you. You saw little hints of it, like with the Apple Vision Pro. How do you all see technology changing the industry from what is standard today to where we're going?
We look at it through, I guess, two lenses at a macro level, personalization and interactivity. And so, look, we've been prioritizing both for decades at ESPN. On the personalization side, for many years, you've been able to favorite a team, favorite a player, favorite a league or a sport, and then we take that data and we personalize the experience. We also personalize the experience based on your behavior, the implicit information that we have on you. We've since then further leaned into personalization. We now have a personalized sports center, which is AI-driven. That was launched in connection with our direct-to-consumer launch end of August. And by the way, all of Charter subscribers have access to that personalized sports center when they authenticate. So that's personalization. And then interactivity. Look, we know that there are many people that prefer the lean back experience. We're also now more servicing those who prefer the more interactive experience. So we knew through our research, and it's probably stating the obvious, but we have so many millions of fantasy users. We have ESPN Bet. We know that our users wanted a commerce offering. We know that they wanted more stats integration. We knew that they wanted, like oftentimes they were coming in the second quarter, the second half, and they wanted to catch up to live through key plays. So now we're offering all of that. But by the way, that's user initiated, right? That's squeezing back the video player to get all of that content, contextual relevance. But if you don't want it, that's fine. You can have the lean back experience and have the full screen experience. And so that's how we're looking in terms of your question on technology. It's really those two buckets.
Yeah, for us, it's two things. It's data, so the utilization of data, so aggregating all of it with all of our partners, understanding what customers watch, how they watch, what they'd want, because that'll drive what we create. We spend $1 billion a year on content, either acquiring it or making it. So the other big thing for us is the technology around how we can produce amazing content at a much less expensive price. So utilization of AI just to support in ways that don't violate our SAG agreements and that allow us to create things, do shoots and productions that we might not be able to afford, but we can generate, aerial shots or on an oil rig for, a show or things like that. but then you extend it to our distribution mechanisms and subtitling and dubbing and transcoding and putting stuff in all different places in all different ways. The architecture for that to deliver content, we're global. We program, we produce content in 22 different languages, and we're in, over a couple 100 million homes around the world. Like, being able to do that efficiently using technology allows us to continue to put a really good product on the street, which allows us to keep going to fight another day. So
we're just a distributor. So, for us, our preference is to have the technology develop really rich, high capacity, high bandwidth, low latency applications where our network succeeds. And so if you think about what Rich showed, with the Lakers, it's, 16K, it's 150 megabits per second of steady stream. There's not many networks that can at scale handle that. And if we can get more of that coming, together with applications we've seen Meta continue talking, Apple Vision Pro is the first generation, you know that more is coming. And so that type of content, whether it's general entertainment or whether it's sports, that fills the pipe that we've created. Our pitch really to Silicon Valley is we've built this wonderful network, not just Spectrum, but Xfinity and Cox and the other cable operators. You essentially have 100% of the US that's going to 10 gigabits per second. What are the applications that need that today? I don't know. They don't exist, but they will. They always have when we've built it. And so this network's available for free, and it's not just a wireline network. It's not just Wi-Fi, but it's the seamless connectivity of being able to walk down the street with the glass product, whatever that becomes. And that's where having the content relationship, I actually think, helps us, because we can go have those conversations. One of the parties that's perhaps most interested in what we're doing, somebody we largely have an indirect relationship, which is the NBA, who had a big hand in helping us, put this together. And for them, it's about applications like the one that you saw. But in addition to that, they understand that their content is now, in a lot of different space. And so where do I find my game is really important to them. And our conversations with the leagues has never been better either, even though it's mostly an indirect relationship, because we're solving that utility. And I think technology can help us make it better for the consumer, but it can also, I think, advantage our network too.
Chris, you're the host, so I'll leave you with the last question here. I assume I know what you're going to say to this, but I'll ask anyways, given what you're doing with Cox and the fact that you have a partnership with Comcast. But does there need to be more consolidation in the cable industry, and are regulators on board with that idea?
I'm going to pass on that question. Look, so in terms of a micro answer, I'll pass on that question. But I think it's fair to say we're competing against, as a cable operator, we're competing against national and global competitors, huge companies. And it's not just Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, but it's Google and Amazon as it relates with global scale, who are entering into business, wanting to do things like ingestion, disaggregation, completely different profit interests than what we've had. And we partner with them really well because it's our network that delivers their products. And on one hand, I want to have a great relationship so that it's richer. But in some of these spaces, we do compete, and it's a different type of competitor. And scale certainly helps you lower prices for customers and provide better service. And I've always thought that there's a benefit to scale, but we've got our hands full right now, and we got to make sure that we continue to have a great operating model that keeps the regulators happy, and we've done that. So,
Chris, Kristin, Jimmy, thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.